Breaking right now, US superstar broadcaster Megyn Kelly has just exposed an editing scam on Meghan Markle's new Netflix series With Love Meghan that reveals the truth about who she really is. This is absolutely fascinating. Only an industry professional like Megyn Kelly would be able to pick it up. But trust me, this really says a lot about the woman we're dealing with. I'll get analysis from Brittany, editor of the Royal News Network, in just one moment. But first, Brittany, let's watch this big revelation from Megyn Kelly.
If you look at the first couple of episodes, every comment she makes is about herself. She's got her friend, Uncle Daniel's there. And then there's the Argentinian woman. And then there's a chef she brings in and Mindy Kaling. So there are no questions or comments about them, except there's one in episode 1 and there's one in episode 2. And if you go back and look at them, they're voiced over.
Really?
She clearly was told after the fact, you know, it might be nice if we kind of had you track like a question to Daniel about himself to set up that comment he made. And it's all voiceover. Anything she asks of the guest was laid in after the fact. You can see the break. It's like someone had to coach her on how to be a normal person who's an actual friend who has interest in something other than themselves.
Ka-ching! Whoa, Brittany. Meghan Markle has just been totally exposed by Megyn Kelly. Isn't that astonishing?
Oh, it's absolutely amazing that Megyn caught that. I definitely didn't. I was watching it sort of on a live stream, so I was kind of like half listening to the series, to be quite honest. But that doesn't surprise me at all. It's sort of, a bit of a magic you can use behind the scenes to sort of make Megyn look like she can actually engage with another human being in a sort of a normal fashion. Because what was fascinating about the series in some ways is that she comes across as incredibly awkward. She doesn't really know any of the people she's talking with. She's trying to make sure everything looks super perfect. And she just doesn't come across well in any of the interactions at all, really, that she doesn't really know them. And one time she sort of gave somebody like a backhanded compliment, I thought, where she's as beautiful on the inside as she is on the outside. And so I was like, what does that mean, Megyn? Because I could see it going a bunch of different ways there. So Megyn definitely does not have a good connection with most of the people who are on here. I'll be fascinated to see how things go with season 2. But I bet you the guy who's the producer behind the scenes, who she would interact with on camera a bit, he was, worked with Anthony Bourdain. And I bet you he's right now sitting in his office going, why did I take this job?
All right, folks. Meghan Markle's Netflix show With Love, Meghan just got exposed as a total fraud. And who caught her? None other than Megyn Kelly, who just uncovered shocking evidence that Meghan's interviews were heavily edited to fake authenticity. According to Kelly, Meghan wasn't even engaging in real conversations. Her questions were added in after filming. As you heard that right. This means her deep connections with guests were completely staged. And if you think that's bad, it gets worse. Royal expert Brittany from the Royal News Network says Meghan was so awkward that Netflix had to work overtime just to make her seem normal.
Because they're having to do a lot of work to make Megyn seem somewhat normal and a good host, because the whole premise of her show is that she is a good host, but you don't actually ever get that feeling that she is. She comes across as overbearing, awkward, so many different things. And so it's like, would I want to be hosted by Meghan Markle? Probably not.
Then Megyn Kelly, with her guest Maureen Callahan of the Daily Mail, had a fascinating take on the whole Mindy Kaling Sussex name moment. Let's watch together.
Mindy says to her, I just don't think that anybody really realizes Meghan Markle ate Jack in the Box. And you watch Megyn tense up. Right up, and the micro expressions and the jaw sets and the eyes go black, and her shoulders rise up, and she goes, it's so funny, and she's like chopping something, so it's like dangerous. It's so funny you say that. So funny you say that, because you know what? I'm Sussex now.
I'm Sussex.
Oh my God! It was like a soap opera moment.
We have it. Let's watch it. Very weird.
Oh, and what follows that is she goes, our little family name.
Right.
Yet another dig at the royals that gave her that title.
Did you notice that at the end of every episode, it says, like, the starring Meghan, Duchess of Sussex.
Yes.
That's how she's billed.
Yes.
When the credits roll at the end, stand alone. Nobody else is on the page. But Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. Because they became Sussex when the Queen died and Harry's dad became king. And that's when Lilibet and Archie became Princess and Prince. And I guess as a result, their last name is now no longer Mountbatten Windsor. It's Meghan Sussex and Harry Sussex. I have no idea. And no, fucking Meghan, no one knew that. Like, why are you correcting? You know it's Sussex. No, I don't know. Who knows that? Literally nobody knows that.
And it's really interesting take, Brittany, from me hearing that from an American perspective, where they're like, oh, all of this weird naming protocol, why does it really matter? But presumably this is exactly what Meghan Markle wanted. She wanted this moment to go viral. She wanted it to explode, which it did, because she wants everyone to start calling her Meghan Sussex. And I guess Mindy Kaling was just the collateral damage.
Yeah, what you want in a conversation with a friend is for somebody to begin lecturing you about their name, which is exactly what Meghan did to Mindy. And Mindy didn't know, and Mindy was just trying to be funny. She was trying to sort of help Meghan be a little bit more comfortable. And then Meghan goes into this long soliloquy about her family name and everything like that, which was sort of a bit ridiculous. But yeah, Meghan does, to a certain extent, thrive on confusion. But I think this confusion isn't helping her because everybody's like, well, what do we call you? You're still calling yourself the Duchess of Sussex, but then you're also calling yourself Meghan Sussex. Which is it? Are you a Mountbatten Windsor? Are you not a Mountbatten Windsor? Where are we within this realm? But it's obviously she just is so desperate for the title, so desperate for the attention. And I would say if she really wants to be Meghan Sussex, then you can be Meghan Sussex, but you have to actually commit to the bit. So that means your billing has to be Meghan Sussex, not Meghan the Duchess of Sussex. So you have to actually commit. And it's still surprising that she's not putting the in there, because not having the in there, going Meghan Duchess of Sussex, is technically a divorced woman's name. So she's almost setting
well, I guess she's just setting her up for the inevitable, Brittany.
Yes.
Give it
so
a few
she's like
years.
already setting it up. So it's always there officially in her divorce title. So even if that changes, if she still has that part of the title, the show still works.
Kelly revealed that if you watch with Love Meghan closely, you'll notice something strange. Her questions to guests don't sound natural. Why? Because they were voiceovered after filming. That's right. Meghan didn't actually ask her guests any real questions in the moment. Instead, Netflix had to go back and add them in post-production to make it seem like she was engaging. What kind of authentic host does that? And the most embarrassing part? Kelly says you can see the breaks where the voiceovers were added. It's that obvious. So here's the question. If Meghan was really connecting with her guests, why did Netflix have to fake it? And if you thought that was bad, wait until you hear what royal expert Brittany from the Royal News Network had to say, because she just exposed another huge issue with this show.
Do you know what? Isn't that just astonishing? Because it shows you that she actually doesn't give a damn about what's right. This is all about marketing. It's all about marketing.
Yes.
It's all about how she thinks this is the best way to market herself. Now, what I loved about this conversation with Megyn Kelly and Maureen Callahan is they did pick up on some things that I didn't. And they had a fascinating take on the whole Meghan Markle obsession with calligraphy. Watch.
Oh, good God. Keep going.
She got an A- in penmanship. She's clearly not over it. We're not doing straight A's all the way. It's an epic fail. She's handlining in soft pencil lines in her notebook instead of buying a notebook. And you can buy a very expensive notebook. Go buy Smithson, spend $400 on that line notebook. But no, she's got to line it herself. Again, what kind of time do you
Soft
have?
line.
Then she's doing that infuriating calligraphy.
I know.
What is she, 12?
I know.
I took a calligraphy class when I was 12. It was a way to kill some time. I didn't think it was going to be a life skill I would take into middle age. And then she's saying, this is a no fuss. She literally says, Meghan, this is a no fuss menu.
Oh,
It's within the reach of anybody. As she writes, like, whole wheat toast with estate honey. Honey from her goddamn estate.
She's obsessed with her honey.
But she's obsessed that she's growing it on an estate in a manner that we can't see because we're just the great unwashed who are tuning in to supposedly, just royal ourselves in envy and feeling like failures because we don't have mini scissors.
And I absolutely, I loved all of that again. But I think what was best for me about this, Brittany, is Maureen Callahan perfectly summed up my frustration, which has been building over so many years. Like, get over your calligraphy obsession. It's embarrassing. I don't care. It's immature. It's like, is this all you've got? And I have the messiest handwriting in the world, Brittany. So maybe there's a little bit of jealousy, okay, because I was never a calligraphy kid. But please, God, move on.
Oh my goodness. I call it her fancy cursive because it's not like true calligraphy, more in like the medieval style. It's fancy cursive. And so it's sort of funny because that is the one thing that I think is Meghan's passion. She talks about hostessing and the show being her passion project and her heart song and everything. And I'm like, no, it's your stinking calligraphy because you have to put it on everything. Even that hat she wore in the renewal thing, it says, let us remain calm. So, lettuce as in lettuce.
Oh,
and then,
yes.
But it's funny because just from a branding marketing perspective, you can't read it easily. So if somebody's walking around with the hat, people are just going to stare at you going, what does that say? I can't read it because it's too small. It doesn't work. And so it's just kind of crazy how obsessed she is with it. But again, it goes all back to what I noticed about this show. And you see it even in her Instagram here. It's all about the aesthetic. There's no heart or soul within it. Her show was soulless, I thought. And it's just all about looking good and nothing about, actually having connections with people because she didn't have connections with anybody on her show. But yeah, that hat is terrible. That hat is she's probably going to sell is terrible. Can't read it.
Calm. That's also terrible.
She did.
Oh, sorry, Brittany, you go.
No, real quick. She did this little thing on the blackboard. She says, oh gosh, breadily or not, here I crumb.
Oh, God, make it
if you
stop.
missed that. So she likes those little
the worst puns in the world. Now, what's interesting,
so
Brittany, so we have Maureen Callahan and Megyn Kelly doing this sort of take from powerful female journalists in the US. But their equivalents here in the UK, certainly on the royal beat, are two women who work for the Times called Roya Nika of the Sunday Times and Kate Mansi, who's of the Times of London daily newspaper. And on the whole, they're a little bit softer towards Meghan than someone like me. And they certainly have been much more favourable over the years. They're part of the royal rota, so they try and play that game, right, which I've always been very opposed to. But what was very interesting, Brittany, listening to their discussion, they are actually as opposed to With Love Meghan as Megyn Kelly and Maureen Callahan were. So I'll get your reaction, but first let's just take a watch of this.
Brittany says, and I quote, Meghan doesn't even seem to know the people she's talking to. It's like they're strangers. Ouch. She points out that Meghan's interactions are so awkward that Netflix producers had to edit the show to make it seem like she was engaging. But in reality, she just sits there waiting for her turn to speak. Brittany also noticed something shocking. Meghan barely asks anything about her guests. Instead, she constantly turns the conversation back to herself. I mean, we knew she was self-obsessed, but this is next level. So here's the question. Is Meghan actually bad at interviews? Or does she just not care about anyone but herself?
So it's really interesting. It reminds me of an article I read sort of in The Guardian that was sort of a think piece on it, talking about how, well, Harry and Meghan do need to make money, but is this the best route? And I think one of Meghan's key mistakes here in this series is that, like they said, like Roya said, she has proclaimed to be an advocate for women, that she's progressive, and all these sorts of things. And yet she does this very shallow and sort of vapid, housewife routine. And I think Meghan, at the end of the day, has sort of revealed herself after a period of time of not being the progressive female advocate that she claims to be. But really, at the end of the day, she's pretty shallow. She doesn't have, let's say, a ton to offer in certain ways, and that this is her world, to be sort of shallow, vain, and vapid. And so I think that's going to start rubbing people the wrong way, because she really should have maybe paired doing some of these things with going and being part of a protest, or, you know, going to the library and reading a book or something to like make her seem more engaged, because she claims to never want to be a woman who lunches. And yet she did an entire show about women who lunch. So she doesn't really stand on anything that she has claimed to over the last several years. And I think she did herself and her potential audience an immense disservice by not living up to her own standards. And she does that constantly, and it really undermines her, I think, in the long run.
Now, Brittany, Newsweek have looked into the exact moment that Meghan Markle's show started flopping. This is really interesting, actually, because usually people like me get the blame over there in the UK. However, what Newsweek has actually discovered, and this is according to really detailed research, Brittany, is that it was actually American audiences that really pushed the show to the point of backlash and ridicule. So the positive responses were actually winning before the show's release, kept the lead for hours after, as British fans and journalists were frantically watching the show. But the balance between positive and negative posts dropped to net zero around 2 p.m. Eastern Time or 11 a.m. in California, where Meghan and Harry live. So that's really fascinating, isn't it? Because it feels like a lot of the hatred actually is coming from the American side of things. And you actually posted on this. Meghan had a handful of hours before the negative public reaction started towards her series. It's been all downhill from there. The noise may have garnered some attention and views, but what she needs is sales. That is the true metric. But what do you make of the fact, Brittany, that it looks as if more of the negativity is actually coming from America rather than the UK?
Well, I'm not really surprised at all, Dan. And it actually goes back to that previous segment of the reporters from the Times. I think Meghan has proclaimed herself to be one thing for so long, but yet we get this show, and it's her fingers have been in it. She is the executive producer. She's the star. She's the one who's guiding and directing everything. And people were expecting so much more, and they were let down. And I think in a time where egg prices are really high, there seems to be a lot of global instability. You see this woman in this, $8 million mansion who has a $16 million mansion down the street telling you how to, cut your fruit so you can put it in a huge rainbow. And they're looking, going, I can't even afford one box of strawberries, and you're showing off probably at least, 6 or something to that effect. I think she came across as way too out of touch. And when she was trying to say, oh, you could do this on a budget, and you're thinking to yourself, what budget? That looks incredibly expensive. And it's not just budget in terms of financial, but it's time too. Because I think Meghan did herself an immense disservice in this show by not acknowledging that she has housekeepers, she has nannies, she has assistants to do things for her. So yeah, she can spend an hour putting together a rainbow, cut up thing of fruit. But the average woman does not have that time, especially the average working mom. She has nothing in common with the average working mom.
And now let's talk about the biggest issue here. If Meghan is so terrible on camera, why did Netflix go along with it? Think about it. Netflix is $1 billion company. They could have easily found another way to make this show work. So why did they choose to edit in voiceovers instead of just letting Meghan be herself? Because they knew she wasn't good enough to carry the show on her own. A former Netflix producer reportedly said, "We had to do a lot of work behind the scenes to make Meghan seem engaging. That tells you everything you need to know. And let's not forget, this is not the first time Meghan has been caught editing the truth. Remember when she and Harry used fake paparazzi footage in their Netflix docuseries to make it seem like they were hunted by the media? That was a total lie. So here's the real question. If Netflix had to fake her interviews, how much else has Meghan been faking?"
And it's sort of like somebody who's claiming, oh, I just worked out and watched what I ate to lose weight, when they were really using Ozempic. And so it's like she's claiming to do all these things and trying to show this perfect existence while not acknowledging in the slightest, she probably has a staff of 10 to help her with the day-to-day things around her home. And so I think Americans watch that, and it's not totally aspirational. She just seems ludicrous and completely out of touch with the average person here in this country.
Now, Brittany, there's also a lot of fun being had with this series on both sides of the Atlantic. So I want to show you first a woman from the UK called Vanessa Feltz. She's a bit of a household name, sort of chat show doyenne, I guess. And she decided to make her own version with Love, Vanessa. Oh, God, I'm cringing almost as hard watching that as I did watching Meghan. And then the TikTokers have been having a lot of fun, Brittany, and some of these are just truly funny. Watch.
Having kids, I know how to work at a fast pace, so here we go. But first, a cappuccino. Hosting is a full-time job. It's not just for my actual guests. It's also for you in this rental studio, so... I still enjoy the spontaneity of a friend saying, oh, I'll come and visit you. My house manager didn't open this. That's okay, we're going with the flow. Today we're also going to be making a fruit tort for his turtle. Jam is half fruit, half sugar. It's not jam, it's a preserve. It's a preserve. It's just so fun.
Oh my goodness.
I don't do measurements here because I like to cook with my heart, and you should probably do the same. That's good. You take a Ziploc. A Ziploc! You can get this anywhere. You never can give a gift without a bow. Now you've created a one-of-a-kind preserved salt bath bomb with a candle and a bow. It's just fun. It's just fun.
And now let's take a step back, because at this point how much of Meghan's brand is even real? We've seen it time and time again. Meghan rewrites history whenever it benefits her. She claimed she was a struggling latchkey kid. Her dad exposed that as a lie. She claimed she had a private wedding before her royal one. The Archbishop confirmed that was false. She claimed the royal family denied Archie a title. The rules prove that's not true. No. She's been caught faking interviews for Netflix. At this point, what can we believe about Meghan Markle? Because it seems like everything is a carefully crafted PR illusion. And the worst part? She actually thinks people won't notice. So, let's break it all down. Megyn Kelly just exposed Meghan's Netflix scam. Instead of real conversations, her interviews were fake, with voiceovers added in after filming. Megyn Kelly proves Meghan's questions were added in later. Fake authenticity exposed. Royal expert destroys Meghan's relatable act. She barely knows her guests. Netflix producers struggled to make Meghan seem normal on camera.
Oh,
Brittany, I liked that one. I like that
Oh,
one.
it's
My
good.
house manager. So look, look, maybe Meghan is giving a little bit of joy, but not in the way she expected to give joy.
No.
If you see what I mean. Like,
No.
We're not laughing with you, but still, we'll take it, right?
Yeah, we're laughing, but more at you than with you. And I'm sure she does not appreciate that in the slightest. Although, according to the Telegraph, she has not read any of the negative reviews. And I'm like,
As
serious?
if. So what?
I was like-
so what? They've briefed to the Telegraph that she hasn't read the reviews. I promise you, that's not true. That is
Or somebody
hilarious.
told her. Yeah, I remember reading that. I was like, really? Because it's hard to ignore at this point that she's sort of the source of mockery. And what's interesting too, if you notice, I don't think anybody in Hollywood has come out and claimed to have loved Meghan, except for her friends who were on the show. So I think even in her town, Gwyneth Paltrow, Oprah Winfrey, those type of people, they're not coming out and going, yes, With Love Meghan was awesome. No, they're staying silent because they can read the tea leaves and they're like, this was not good. I'm probably laughing right along with us, to be quite honest.
Oh, Brittany, I've really enjoyed this. Thank you so much. And of course, you've
Thanks,
got to
Dan.
follow the Royal News Network for all of the latest. Actually, Brittany, just before we go, can we cleanse our soul
Yes.
and take a look at the Commonwealth Day celebration? I think she
Looking
wasn't
gorgeous.
there last year, Brittany, because of everything she was going through. And so isn't it just great? Welcome back, Kate.
It's so great to have her back.
Cleanse our soul with a bit of Catherine, the
Yes.
Princess of Wales, if you see what I mean.
Oh, yes, I'm so excited that she's going to be back more this year. I was really a bit concerned for a while that was going to be a very, very slow reintroduction, but I think, going to the Commonwealth service, I actually saw the one in 2023. And so it's great to have her back. And so excited for her to continue to feel better and be out there. Hopefully state visits this year, her wearing a tiara. That is my hope.
Yes. And there's your palate cleanse. There's your palate cleanse so that we're ending on the real royals. But come on, there's been a lot of entertainment from Montecito, we have to admit that.
Yeah.
Brittany, editor of the Royal News Network, give her a follow on YouTube. She does a lot on the real royals from all across the globe. Brittany, so brilliant to have you. And we will speak next week.
Yes, I will see you then.
If Meghan is faking her interviews, what else has she been lying about? At this point, Meghan's credibility is in shambles. And the question is, how much longer will Netflix and Hollywood put up with this? So now the big question. Did Meghan Markle fake her authentic interviews? Should Netflix be held accountable for this scam? And is this final proof that Meghan's entire brand is a lie? Let me know in the comments.